All right, so tonight's class is going to be, it's titled Break the Pattern and Claim Your Love. It's going to kind of deep dive into surviving love versus living in love. So, welcome everybody. Most of us are surviving love instead of living it. Says we chase the chaos, we overgive, and the confusion of intensity with meaning. Well, that's going to stop here tonight. In this class, we're going to break the patterns keeping you stuck, explain things in simple terms for those starting their healing journey, and dive a little bit deeper for those who've been doing the inner work for a while. By the end, you'll understand how to create conscious, intentional, deep love without losing yourself. So how many of us have lost ourselves in a relationship? And when I say a relationship, I don't mean just intimate relationship. I'm talking friends, family, to coworkers, supervisors, just strangers on the street, like all relationships, even a relationship with yourself. When have we overdone ourselves or put up with things longer than we should have, with losing ourselves in that process? So I want to take a moment and I want you to ask yourself, am I surviving love or am I living it? So first we're going to identify the pattern. So let's start with the basics. Many of us have opened our hearts fully. We've given everything and convinced ourselves that intensity equals love. You may have felt over all-consuming emotions and thought that was proof of connection. When reality hits, you realize you've been carrying all that emotional weight and you're doing it alone. That's a survival pattern. So intensity feels exciting, but often comes with chaos or emotional exhaustion. You may have tolerated inconsistency, imbalance, or even emotional volatility. Our nervous systems learn to link adrenaline, emotional highs, and chaos with feeling alive. So that all that chaos, all that drama made us feel alive. This creates unconscious survival bonds. You overgive and tolerate instability because your system interprets it as intimacy. So, y'all, this class was hard to come by, because this is from my own personal experience recently. So reflecting on that as I'm putting all this together, I know for me in my active addiction and in majority of my life, all my relationships, I was loving in survival mode. Therefore, I kept attracting the same patterns in people or situations or things like that. I mean, in all aspects of relationships. They all carried the same chaos patterns, which was that intensity equaled love, the adrenaline, the drama, the chaos, because I felt that if they could handle my chaos, that I could definitely handle theirs. But then in the end, I'm carrying my own chaos and their chaos by the end of it. And I lost completely who I was altogether. Because, during the active addiction, I was masking the pain. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to even be anything with it. I just wanted it to go away, right? So I thought that my survival strength was love to them. But then again, like I said, I ended up carrying both weights because we were looking to save each other rather than do that together, right? Or helping each other, supporting each other, but it's chaos on chaos. So let's think about the last time you felt consumed by a relationship. Now ask yourself, was I drawn to the person or to the chaos they triggered? Yeah, I feel called out too. Because like I said, I put this class together and then I was like, man, like when I actually started going back over it, it hit even harder. So I completely feel that being called out. But again, were you drawn to that person or to the chaos that they triggered in that relationship? So some reflection questions that we're going to do is, am I chasing emotional highs or genuine connection? Did I confuse survival with love? Because I know I did. And I don't think if I wouldn't be where I am today with my healing, I wouldn't be able to see that, because I just recently started seeing this pattern within myself. So the last one's going to be, when someone is calm, consistent, and present, does my nervous system trust it? Or does it still crave the chaos? Because until I came out of masking my emotions and just numbing them, making them non-existent, I crave the chaos. And today I'm like, it's too peoply. I don't want no chaos. Because I've started to learn that there's patterns within myself that crave that chaos to feel alive, but yet that's still in the survival mode. I'm still learning to live in love. So the next thing we're going to talk about is choosing the conscious love. So here's the truth most people miss. Calm isn't boring, and safe isn't weak. Survival bonds make you think you need chaos to feel alive. That's a lie. Step one is going to be self-regulation. You take care of your own heart. You manage your own nervous system. This is non-negotiable. Because stepping into a relationship, if you can't self-regulate, becomes dependence. Then somebody's carrying somebody else's weight on either aspect of that relationship. So step two is going to be presence. Someone can stand beside you, witness your mess, inspire you, but they don't do the regulation for you. You do that yourself. So you can experience closeness and emotional depth without relying on someone's to fix you. And conscious love amplifies your stability instead of creating it. You can tolerate closeness and vulnerability without relying on external validation. So I know through my divorce, I was devastated. I blamed myself. And through me getting to start new relationships outside of that and doing deep reflections, I met the people in this community here, and they saw my messy places, yet not one of them tried to fix it for me. They listened, there was no judgment, and it allowed me a safe space to be messy, yet alone open the door for me to learn to self-regulate myself. Just them being there allowed me to begin my journey of self-regulation. It also showed me my patterns were no longer going to work, all because it was consistent. It gave me room to identify the root cause of my emotion and that pattern. Where I want to be doesn't allow these patterns to continue anymore. So I want you to visualize a partner, and this is any relationship, you and that other person. Like I said, it can be supervisor, it could be a coworker, family, friends, whatever, I want you to visualize that person who is calm, consistent, and emotionally available. Notice whether you feel safe or anxious. Now, notice subtle nervous system reactions. Was there tension anywhere? Was there relaxation? Did you have any triggers come up? Okay. You can journal about these, whatever your observations were at that time. You can just reflect on them. That's truly up to you guys. So now we need to reframe that intensity, right? So the old you equated fire with survival. And what does fire do? If you stick your hand over a fire, you're going to get burned. Fire with survival is you're going to get burned. At least in my experience, I can say, yeah, you get burned. But the new you, fire is a mutual presence. It comes in loyalty and it comes in choice. Intensity doesn't need crisis. You can have deep emotional connection. And for me, that equaled emotional regulation, as to where I numbed all emotions before during the addiction. Vulnerability without rescue, which then in turn I started learning my emotional intelligence, being able to identify what it is I'm feeling, where it's coming from, and being able to look at it. And then the last one is going to be growth without collapse, which for me, that is where I learned to start setting boundaries for myself. Things that that old me doesn't fit in the new me to wherever I'm going, whatever I'm becoming. I just know that's not what I want anymore. So intoxicating feelings can come from gratitude, presence, and reliability, not the drama. Your nervous system can now experience neurochemical rewards from consistent conscious connection instead of adrenaline spikes. Deep emotional resonance reinforces your regulation and intimacy capacity. Say that 10 times fast. So now if you feel obliged to, close your eyes and imagine someone at your side through your challenges. Does this feel safe and exciting? Now track subtle internal cues and differences between chaos-driven desire and your conscious connection desire. Okay, so now we're going to apply the Brave Thinking Institute principles to all of this. So awareness recognizes patterns that keep you stuck. Choice, we engage only with relationships that respect your sovereignty. And manifestation, build connections that amplify your wholeness, not feed chaos. So now well, this says write a love blueprint, but basically you can journal what you would define this other person, of what you want the boundaries and behaviors that matter, to write those down. Kind of focus on some qualities and values. And also include some practices for staying regulated, present, and curious regardless of their behavior. That's a hard one. Because when you've been unregulated for so long and you're just on that starting journey of recognizing your triggers and being able to, regulate and be present in that moment, that's hard in the beginning, at least in my experience. So now reflection and integration. Let's ask ourselves, where am I still chasing intensity instead of building stability? How do I define intoxicating? Chaos or shared growth? Can I open my heart fully while staying whole if someone is deeply loving but not overwhelming? And am I ready for calm as a new high? You can also reflect on a current or past relationship, on which behaviors or patterns were survival based, which felt conscious. So let's stop surviving love and start living it. You're learning to regulate, soften intentionally, and choose connection that amplifies your wholeness. Gratitude, calm, and consistent presence can be intoxicating. Intensity can exist without collapse, and that vulnerability doesn't equal dependency. Choose love consciously and live a life that isn't just surviving, that it's thriving.